Here at the Department of Environmental Health Sciences at UCLA, research is showing that lead can take the place of zinc in a protein that regulates how your genes are transcribed or copied. And when this happens, it can interfere with the development of your nervous system and even red blood cells. Lead is one of the most studied toxic substances, and as a result, more is known about the adverse health effects of lead and how to prevent them than virtually any other chemical. Yet according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 400,000 children suffer from lead poisoning each year. The majority of cases are from swallowing lead paint or playing in contaminated soil around their homes. But why would a kid eat lead paint? It's another tricky trait of this heavy metal. Lead stimulates the specific taste buds that tell the brain something is sweet, making a lead paint chip a tasty yet toxic treat for a toddler.
When children are exposed to even relatively small amounts of lead, they can end up having permanent developmental problems. And certainly if you have very high levels, children could experience coma or even death.
Children are much more susceptible to lead poisoning than adults because a child's body will absorb more lead, and it will retain what it absorbs. This buildup of lead in the body is what causes serious and irreversible damage.
I heard a scream that I had never heard in my life before, coming out of this little bitty body. It was a scream of sheer pain. There were 3, maybe 4 nurses holding her down, and they said, "Mother, hold her head." And so the person that she saw when she was being inflicted with pain was the person that she trusted. It was hard to sit and watch her have to go through chelation therapy, which was 2 shots per day for a 3-day period in some cases it was a 5-day period. And all I kept saying to myself is that we had to do this because it was going to make her better. That was the first time I found out what lead could do to a child's system. And it hurt even more to find out that lead poisoning was an entirely preventable disease.
Sort of like getting caught up in a whirlwind. We went through, in a nutshell, the financial and emotional depression that follows lead poisoning. Once we found out that we poisoned the whole family, we had to find out how to do this right. It's completely changed my work. I can't bid on a job in an old house without including precautions for lead paint. 1, so I don't bring it home to my family. My family doesn't need it. We've already been through that. The occupants of the building I'm working on don't need it either.
Katie, do you have a floor?
I know what they're going to go through, and nobody should have to go through that.
Stories like this are more common than we'd like to believe. According to the Centers for Disease Control, 1 in 22 American children has toxic levels of lead in their systems. Some of these effects may be permanent. Lead can affect children anywhere, including right here in Rock Hill. Most homes built before 1960 contain lead paint. Now, so do some houses built as late as 1978. We're going to take a walk through this house and point out some danger spots for lead poisoning. Lead is a poisonous metal that can cause learning, hearing, and behavioral problems. It damages the brain, the kidneys, and other organs, and prevents absorption by important minerals such as iron and calcium. Come on. Children with lead poisoning don't usually act or look sick. The only way to know if your child has lead poisoning is by getting him or her a blood test. Have your doctor test any child under 6 years old at least once a year. Now, here's a danger point. Painted windowsills or floor trim like this can contain lead-based paint. Now, if you have little ones in the house, you got to keep in mind that tiny pieces of peeling or chipping paint are toxic if little Junior decides to snack on them. Now, if lead-based paint is in good condition, it's not usually a problem, except in places where painted surfaces are going to rub together and create lead dust. You see this sometimes in windows and doors. As we all know, children like to chew. Be sure to keep cribs and play areas away from surfaces like windowsills that may have been painted with lead-based paint. Also, be sure to keep the areas where your children play as dust-free as possible. Wash pacifiers and bottles after they fall on the floor and keep extras nearby. Wash toys and stuffed animals frequently to avoid lead dust. And speaking of toys, you can call the Consumer Product Safety Commission hotline at 1-800-638-2772 or visit the website at www.cpsc.gov to find out what toys have been recalled due to lead-based paint. Be sure children wash their hands before meals, nap time, and bedtime. Before you move into a house you think may have lead paint, clean it up thoroughly. Wash the windows and other dusty areas with trisodium phosphate, or TSP as it's known. Now, you can get it in most hardware stores. You can also use soap and water. If you see chipping or peeling paint, clean up the paint chips immediately and have a professional check it out. Never dry dust or sand potential lead-based paint yourself. Lead dust from repairs and renovations can linger in the home long after the work has been completed. It's critical to hire a person with special training to remove lead paint from your home, someone who knows how to do this work safely and has the proper equipment to clean up thoroughly. Everyone who lives in the home, especially children and pregnant women, should leave until all the lead removal is finished and a thorough cleanup is done. Call 1-800-424-LEAD, or you can go to www.leadlisting.com for a list of local professionals. While tap water coming into your home is lead-free, if it travels through older lead pipes, well, it can release lead particles into the water. So what you want to do with older pipes is let the cold water run 30 to 60 seconds before drinking it. Hot water absorbs more lead than cold water, so use cold water only for all of your drinking and, of course, your cooking. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency urges people who have old plumbing to avoid making baby formula with the hot tap water. You want to wash all fruits and vegetables before eating. A child who gets enough iron and calcium will absorb less lead. Now, foods rich in iron and calcium include fruit, eggs, lean red meat, beans, and dairy products. Also, you want to check your dishes and ceramic cookware to be sure that they don't contain lead. Never burn painted wood. It may contain lead and throw off toxic fumes as it burns. And keep family areas as dust-free as possible. Ordinary dust and dirt may contain lead, and children can swallow or breathe lead-contaminated dust if they play around it and then put their hands in their mouths. When the kids are outside, encourage them to play in the grassy areas instead of the dirt. You see, it could stick to their fingers or even to their toys. And we want to prevent the kiddies from eating dirt. It seems to be a favorite of the toddlers. The dirt may contain lead. Make sure when they go inside they wash their hands. If you work with lead in your job or with a hobby, change your clothes and shower before you go home. Do not track lead dust into your home. Okay, now, let's review the basics of what we've covered. Most homes built before 1960 contain lead paint, and some built as late as 1978 can also contain it. Get your child tested for lead poisoning, even if he or she seems healthy. Reduce the risk of lead paint. Eliminate all loose paint chips and dust from your home. Don't try to remove the lead paint yourself. Use a licensed lead removal professional. Be sure not to bring lead dust into your home from work or a hobby. Have your water tested. If the cold water hasn't been used for more than a few hours, let it run for 30 to 60 seconds before drinking it or cooking with it, and run the hot water for about 1 to 2 minutes. Be sure not to store food in high lead pottery. Lead poisoning is an avoidable hazard. Just knowing the things to look out for and the proper steps to take if you encounter it can save your child from a serious and preventable illness. So long, and remember, it's up to you to be proactive. Good luck.